If you had one shot or one opportunity to seize everything you ever wanted in one moment, would you capture it or just let it slip? Yo. His palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy. There's vomit on his sweater already. Mom's spaghetti, he's nervous, but on the surface he looks calm and ready to drop bombs. But he keeps on forgetting what he wrote down. The whole crowd goes so loud, he opens his mouth, but the words won't come out. He's choking how? Everybody's choking now. The clock's run out, time's up, over, loud. Snap back to reality. Oh, there goes gravity. Oh, there goes rabbit. He choke. He's so mad, but he won't give up. Daddies, he know he won't have it. He knows his whole back to these ropes. It don't matter, he's dope. He knows that, but he's broke. He's so stacked that he knows when he goes back to this mobile home, that's when it's back to the lab again, yo. This old rhapsody better go back to this moment and hope it don't pass him.
Listen, we can talk about the flag, but let's talk about wait.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Trending in the AM right here on DSM Media. We're live, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. You know the drill. Smash that like button, retweet button, share button, subscribe button, thumbs up button, notification bell button. Just hit every button you could see and continue to spread the good word of Trending in the AM. I am Phil Stipe, your host, at Beard of Knowledge on Twitter. I forgot to take my golf podcast link down there, at Fairway to Heaven _ too. But might as well promote that too while I'm here. At Jason Voorhees is right next to me. At Mustaine 3651. Good morning, Jason. How you doing today?
Tired and annoyed.
Tired and annoyed because new lineup, same results for the Fighting Phillies. So we got lots to talk about today. Jam-packed episode. So we're going to talk the Phillies game. We're going to recap last night. Another loss last night. We fall to last place. We got the Sixers game 3 tonight. We'll preview that. Interesting topic on Twitter last night as everybody was bored with, so the Phillies game. Everybody started talking top 10 TV shows. I put out my top 10 list. We're going to go over that. And an interesting little piece of news that dropped in baseball yesterday. It's kind of gone under the radar, but it's kind of linked to the Calvin Ridley gambling suspension thing, whatever you want to call it. So I want to talk about that too. So that's the agenda for the show today. But like I said, Jason, we got to start with the Phillies game. Joe Girardi trots out a new starting lineup again. We were on the pregame show with Dylan yesterday talking about it, where consistency is the key in a batting order in baseball, especially early in the season. Yeah, Joe Girardi, I don't even know. We're 12 games into the season? Have we had the same lineup more than 2 games in a row once yet?
No.
It would not surprise me if someone said in the comment section right now, which if you want to comment on the show, make your questions, your thoughts, your opinions heard, over on the YouTube or Facebook page. That's where I can put your questions, comments, up on the screen just like this. If you said that out of the 12 games, there was 10 different starting lineups, I would not say that that's, exaggerating. That's how crazy it is. But different lineup again, same results, another loss. We fall to last place. What are your initial thoughts after watching last night's game?
It's pathetic. Honestly, look around the league and just look at what other teams are doing. Like, no other team is trotting out different lineups on a daily basis. It's only the Phillies, and it has to make you question why. Why is Joe Girardi so freaking stubborn? Why does he have to, look too much into it? Why it shouldn't be that hard. The opening day lineup was actually the lineup that makes the most sense. And he just diverted from that after day 2. And, here we are. And, like I said, different lineup, same results. I mean, you look at yesterday's live. So yesterday he trotted out Segura in the leadoff spot, which I know some people have talked about putting him there. But, last year Segura, 240 in the leadoff spot, like a 310 on base percentage. He threw Rhys Hoskins in the 2-hole, which last year Rhys Hoskins had a 200 batting average and like a 250 on base percentage in the 2-hole. They went Harper, Castellanos, Real Muto, Schwarber in the 6-hole. Luckily, he did play Bohm again, which is really good. Needed Bohm in there again. Didi, of course, like I said yesterday, because he had a pinch hit double, Didi was going to be back in the lineup, and Matt Vierling. Didi got hurt yesterday. I didn't see the play he got hurt,
but I heard they did X-ray. They are saying he's got a hand contusion or a wrist contusion.
I saw it.
So, but did it look pretty bad, or?
I mean, at first it looked really bad. I thought I had a broken hand, and and listen, I will never wish injury on anybody. I said it last night, but it might be the only way to get Didi out of the lineup. And I hate to sound that way, but like Didi is not helping this team. He's not.
Right.
To me, Didi is a bench player at this point. We've already talked about it. How, in my mind, I think he should be traded, but nobody wants him.
Right.
Bryson Stott did so well in spring training, and you bring him up on the roster, and then you don't play him. How does that help? Either put him in the minors or let him play.
Didi gets hurt, and who comes in to fill in for him? Not Bryson Stott.
But that's my point, Phil. Why is Bryson Stott on the team if you're not going to play him? It makes zero sense to me. And once again, it just shows you how this organization does not have any clue what they're doing when it comes to young players and prospects. Either you bring the guy up and you put him in the lineup and let him play. I get sitting him maybe once every 4 days. That's fine. But this whole platoon thing, and it's not even a platoon. You're starting Didi every game. And as you said, Didi gets hurt, and who do you bring in? Camargo. Like, let's be real here about this. Like, I want to – if you're going to have young guys on the team, once again, I'll preface it, they need to be playing. Mm-hmm. It's not helping them. It's not helping their development. It's not helping their psyche. And like I said, Bryson Stott to me did very well in spring training. And here's a guy that could help your lineup.
Yeah, I mean, he obviously in his few opportunities since the season started, he hasn't done great. But those opportunities are few and far between, and that's the problem. You know, I still say, I mean, you know what? That's who Joe Girardi is, though. You know, he's a guy that's just going to go with, you know, the veteran, the older, he likes to go with the guys that he knows what their track record, whether their track record is good or not. He likes to go with the proven, you know, he knows what he's going to get. Whether it's a 200 batting average is what he's going to get, he doesn't care. He just wants to go with what he gets. But I'm more concerned. Like, you know what? You want to argue over Bohm, Stott, Camargo, Stott, you know, all those guys, Gregorius, you know, that's one thing. But the Segura Hoskins 1-2 is just as bad as the JT Bryce 1-2. Look at it. Schwarber eventually was going to break out. He broke out last night, went 2 for 4 last night, hit another home run, drove in a bunch of RBIs. Why weren't you leaving him in the leadoff spot? Why don't you let Kyle Schwarber get out of his funk there versus the 6-hole? And you know, I do want to say, and I know you said that. I've said it too. That home run, it's great. He got a home run. Maybe it boosts his momentum. That ball's not a home run in 9 out of 10 ballparks, just so you know. That was a Coors Field home run, just so you know. That ball barely got over the fence in Coors Field. So if it barely got over the fence in Coors Field, that might not carry at Citizen Bank Park or most other ballparks. But, hey, if it gives him a little boost in confidence, that's great. His little RBI single he had in the 5th or 6th inning or whenever he drove in that other run, that was actually a better piece of hitting because, you know, ball down in the zone. He was able to find a hole, you know, driving a key run in that game. I just leave Schwarber. Schwarber is still, he's not a realistic leadoff hitter, but he's still your best option. And why we keep messing with it, I have no idea.
I'm going to tell you, as I said, Joe Girardi is bigger on analytics than we like to give him credit for. Like, he is. He's a very analytical guy. And unfortunately, I don't think he understands analytics to the point of what they're really supposed to be used and the way they're supposed to be looked at. You know, he looks at it as Segura was your best hitter as far as average, so he's getting on base. That's why he put him in the leadoff spot. But as you mentioned, Segura's track record, if you look back at what he's done, even though it's not a huge sample size,
right?
He's not been successful. Unfortunately for the Phillies right now, they really don't have a true leadoff hitter.
They don't.
Kyle Schwarber did very well in that role last year. Actually, he had his best season. So that's why I do agree he is your best option. But they don't have a true leadoff hitter. And that's part of the flaw of this lineup.
Dude, they got Roman Quinn batting leadoff in AAA right now. Come on.
The second flaw that I see in this lineup
He's got the speed of
is that these guys are overly streaky hitters. When you combine that many streaky hitters in your lineup and you don't have any guys that are kind of what I would call balanced hitters where, there's more of a balance and more of consistency, you're going to have lulls. And unfortunately, at this point, we have a lull going on for the whole entire team. It's not like 3 guys are in a lull and 3 guys are doing well. The whole lineup is in a lull. And that's what's realistically killing the Phillies style. Now, you mentioned, I mentioned, and Dylan mentioned before the game that one key to the game was the approach at the plate. So through the first 2 innings, Kyle Freeland had 49 pitches. They were doing what they were supposed to be. Exactly what we said. They worked the pitcher. What happened in inning 3 after I tweet to you, I text to you, they're actually following approach. They have a 9-pitch inning. So it's like they do the right thing, and then all of a sudden it's like a mental lapse, and they just start doing whatever they want. If they're not going to follow the rules and they're not going to realize what they're doing wrong, then I don't know.
They have to. Look, first and foremost, I think we kind of overreacted yesterday, on the morning show and on the pregame show about how bad Freeland was. Freeland isn't a great pitcher, but he's not a bad pitcher. Again, we want to talk about Aaron Nola living off of his 2008. I mean, Freeland was number 4 that year in Cy Young voting. Okay, he's 28 years old. I think he's averaged over the last 3 or 4 years, I saw 3.86 ERA. So he just had a rough start to the season. Yesterday, right before the game, the Rockies gave him a 5-year, $65 million extension. Basically, over the next 6 years, he'll be counting this year, he'll be making $80 million. It's the richest contract they've given out to a pitcher since, what was his name? Mike Hampton? Was that the pitcher's name? Kyle Hampton? No, Mike Hampton. It's the biggest contract they've given to a pitcher since Mike Hampton. And that was a long time ago that they gave that. So the Rockies have confidence in Freeland to be a really good Colorado
He's their ace.
pitcher. He's kind of sort of their ace to an extent. You don't really have an ace in Colorado because of the way the ball travels there. But we kind of overreacted and said, well, the Phillies should score 20 runs. And what did I say on the pregame show? The over-under was 12 and a half. That if we did not hit the over, we weren't going to win that game. And that's exactly 110% the way it played out. Look, some people will say Kyle Gibson pitched okay last night. He pitched okay. It's what you're going to get. What did he go, 5 1/3 or something like that? Or
he went 6.
6 full innings, gave up 3 runs. I said he's a 3, 4, 5-run game guy, runs a game guy. He's a Joe Blanton type innings eater of 6 innings last night. Walked a couple batters, struck out a couple batters. He didn't do anything fantastic. He didn't do anything bad, but he didn't do anything good. When your offense is struggling, you need a pitcher to go out there. You need one guy. When you're losing the games at the rate that the Phillies are, you need one pitcher to step up, slam the door shut, and just go out there and throw a shutout. And we don't have – well, we have Zach Wheeler, but he struggled, obviously, his last game. We don't really have that shut-down pitcher, and that's a problem. And then you go to the bullpen, and you got Sir Anthony Dominguez comes in the 7th, gets the first 2 outs pretty easily, then gets a couple guys on base, and Sleepy Joe pulls them for Jesus Familia, who we know who he is. He's a 5 ERA guy, and he hangs a slider. Boom, ball game over. And Joe was asked after the game, why'd you pull Sir Anthony so quickly? He's like, well, I got him up in the 5th. I got him up in the 6th. Well, Joe, that's mismanagement of your bullpen. If you've got to pull a pitcher after two-thirds of an inning because you warmed them up too many times, I don't want to hear that as an excuse. That's bad management of your bullpen. Am I wrong?
It's terrible management of your bullpen. And first of all, to me, Sir Anthony Dominguez doesn't belong in that role. Like, to me, Sir Anthony Dominguez is a guy that I realistically believe has closer material. Like, honestly, if that's the case, he shouldn't be coming in the 5th inning or 6th inning. He's a guy that I would try to insert him as your setup guy or at least 7th inning.
Well, that's when he came in, but when you're warming him up in the 6th and the 5th inning, that's the problem.
Well, that's my point. So
okay.
You're not. Yeah.
Sorry, I misunderstood you there for a second.
Well, no, that was my point. That if you're bringing, if he is going to be your 7th inning guy, why is he up in the 5th? That's once again, it's not only does he mismanage the lineup, he mismanages the bullpen. Like Joe Girardi at this point, he is on the crosshairs. Like John Middleton went over the tax. John did something that the Phillies have never done yet up until this season. He went over the tax big time to get Castellanos. There is no way in hell that he's going to put up with this BS with Joe Girardi all season. If this continues on this track.
So the question is, they're already in last place.
They're 5 games out of the middle already.
How long does Joe Girardi get? How long? I mean, is it another week? Is it the rest of this month? Is it into mid-May? Because like we both agreed yesterday on the show and earlier this week, you cannot lose the division, or you cannot win the division in April. But you sure as hell can lose the division in April. 5 games out already. And it's not the schedule. We got the Brewers this weekend. We still got a game or 2 against Colorado. We're not set up to break out of this slump anytime soon. At what point do you pull the trigger on Joe Girardi? It's got to be sooner rather than later, in my opinion. You can't wait 35, 40 games into the season to do it.
I think it will be quick. If it continues like this, Phil, we could possibly end April in last place in the division. And that is not acceptable with this line. I don't care. There's no excuse that anybody can say, oh, well, it's early or it's baseball. No, but that's one thing to say it's early and it's baseball if your team is maybe underperforming. They're underperforming at an alarming rate. And it's because of the manager and the lineups that he's throwing out there on a daily basis that nobody can even get. There's no consistency at all on this team. Zero. Nada. Like, I mean, look around the league. Like, look at other teams. Go do yourself a favor today. Just do some homework. Go back and look at every game's lineups. I guarantee about 80 to 85% of the league trots out pretty much the same lineup every day, unless there's an injury or they're using a platoon on it. But when you see the platoon, it's like, this guy plays against lefties, this guy plays against righties. There's no switching of the numbers of the lineup. There might be different positions, and that's fine when you have a DH. But realistically, you need to have a set lineup and just roll with it. Right. And this team is not doing that. And that is going to be the downfall of Joe Girardi, because it's obvious to me. Joe Girardi, he obviously played the game. So I'm not going to sit here and question his knowledge of baseball. He obviously knows baseball, but he doesn't understand the mechanics of it. He doesn't understand when to pull a pitcher. He either pulls a pitcher too soon or waits too long. Like you said the other night, he kind of did well with Nola. He realized that Nola wasn't having it, and he did yank him, and that's good. That's a sign that, to me, that he's maybe seeing it. But for the most part, on a daily basis, he doesn't pull his pitchers, in the right manner of time. And these lineups, you said 10. I would bet it's 11 out of the 12 games. It's been a different lineup. Yeah. Because I know for a fact that day one's lineup was different than day two. Yeah. Because Stott was in day one, and then he wasn't in day two.
JT got game 3 off.
Exactly.
Reese Hoskins got a game off really early in the season.
It
might be, after the show.
Off are fine, but if you're going to do that, I don't know, man.
We agree. My point is, though, how soon do you pull? I mean, I'm looking at the Phillies schedule right now, okay? They got the Rockies today, 3 o'clock game, Zach Eflin against Marquee. Then they get their first day off on Thursday. And that is something right there. We're the only team that has not had a day off yet. So we've 13 straight days playing. It's a long stretch, and we get 1 day off, and then we have to go and play 3, 7, 8, 9, 10, another 11 games in a row after that. So we're basically playing 24 games in 25 days. So that's a really, really tough schedule to start. That's a really
millions of dollars to do.
Yeah, well, that's fine, but it's still something. I'm trying to find threads. But if you want to be able to say you're going to pull the trigger on Joe Girardi and make him, relieve of his duties, you got Colorado today. Then we get a day off. Then we get Milwaukee this weekend. Great team. Then Colorado comes to town, a team that's already proven. They've already beaten us twice. And then we go 7 of our next 9 games after that into the beginning of May against the Mets, who are the first place team. They're 9-3. So there's the stretch here. Colorado, Milwaukee, Colorado, Mets, Texas Mets. And then after that, you go West Coast for Seattle and the Dodgers. You're not going to fire a manager on a West Coast trip. So now you're looking at late May.
I have a question for you.
What?
I have a question for you.
All right.
Just say that this team only has 6 wins at the end of April. They're like 6-14.
Whatever, yeah.
Would you fire Joe Girardi? I would.
Really?
I think that's unacceptable.
It's 100% unacceptable.
Unacceptable. Like, I don't know why would we be waiting? Like, is he all?
So there's 10 games left in this month. That means we would have to go 2-8 in the next 10 games. If we go 2-8 in the next 10 games, I guarantee that Joe Girardi's going. If we are 6, and what do we have? 8 losses now. 6. That would put us at 6-16 at the end of the month of April. 6-16 to start the month with this payroll and with this team is 100%. And if he is not fired on May 1st after that, then you have to question John Middleton. But also, you have to, I hate to use the term, but you kind of have to bully the front office into making the decision, because you damn well know that if we even get close to that, the fan base is going to be calling for his head.
Who is out there? That's the other thing. I haven't looked at it myself. Here I am criticizing the manager, but I'm like, who is out there that could do a better job than Joe Girardi?
Well, you just promote somebody from within at first, at least. You'd probably promote Dusty Watton, who probably should have been the coach before Gabe Kapler even. He probably takes over. Obviously it would be fun. Everybody's going to say bring Charlie Manuel up, but I think Charlie Hustle, I think he's past his time as a manager. Larry Bella, you don't really need that again, and I think he's a little old for that kind of a role. But
how about Mike Schmidt?
No, he was.
I know he's not a manager.
Then he managed single or double A after his career was over, and he was a terrible manager. If you want to go the former ball player, somebody brought up the other day on a show, I think it was Monday, Chase Utley, and Chase Utley is way too entrenched in L.A. He's a Dodgers guy now. He's settling out there in L.A. where he's originally from and all. He wouldn't be the guy.
Jimmy Rollins.
I was just going to say, I brought up it as a counter to that person watching said Jimmy Rollins.
Jimmy Rollins would be a phenomenal manager. I think. I don't
know if he'd be a phenomenal manager, but I know it would invigorate the fan base. It would invigorate the clubhouse. Whether he'd be good at making the X's and O's decisions that a baseball manager needs to do, whether he'd be good at managing a bullpen, I don't know about all that. But I do know he has a pretty strong baseball mind. But if you remember back to his time in Philly, yeah, exactly. He has no experience. I know he has no experience.
We all know that.
Yeah. But the thing is, if you remember back to when he was here playing and Charlie Manuel was the manager at the time, the one guy that was at Charlie Manuel's hip at all times in the dugout, all times during practice and hitting, batting practice and all, Jimmy Rollins was constantly soaking up knowledge from Charlie Manuel. So maybe he learned a little bit from him. But yeah, this is a great point. Joe is not a Dombrowski guy. Joe is a dead man walking nonetheless. Absolutely agree with you. 100%. Dombrowski, it's kind of funny. You bring Dombrowski in here to make all these changes, and Dombrowski's kind of like the president GM that gets you over the hump, that makes the big moves to get you over the hump. Problem is, Dombrowski has had so many things to fix with this team. He brings in Schwarber and Castellanos. Well, they still don't have a leadoff hitter. He's still got to deal with the Didi contract. He's still got to deal with Gene Segura. the lack of a minor league system. No pitching. Joe Girardi. So he's made improvements to his team. The problem is he's still got so much work to do. And getting rid of Sleepy Joe might be the next problem that he has to solve.
I mean, I hate that we're only in April and we're already at this discussion, but to be able to sit here in hindsight and say I didn't see this coming, I can't say that, because I've had questions with Joe for a while, not just last year. I question the fact that, as you and I have said before numerous times, put anybody on that Yankees team. I mean, with Mariano Rivera, that team that he had was basically an all-star team. I mean, who couldn't manage that? That's my question. Right. So anyone that wants to point to the success that he had as a manager there, I have to ask, well, what did he make them better? Or did he just basically, was he a figurehead on that team to the point where they were going to do well regardless of who the manager was? Because that's what I look at. I don't see anything that he's done in his tenure since he's gotten here to Philly where you can say, okay, well, this guy's really improved. Do you know what I'm saying? To me, the manager, I know a lot of people say a manager in baseball doesn't sway your team, any which way, either way, whether it's better or worse. Right. But I disagree with that, because while the manager might not be playing the games and the manager might not be the one that's either in a slump or doing well, the manager's pulling the strings. And to me, the number one job of a manager or a coach or a boss, I manage for a living in my job. And the number one quality that I look at within myself is when I'm able to get somebody promoted, where they do well and they show improvement under me. That's a good sign of a manager. And I don't see anybody on this team, and I'm not talking about Bryce Harper, because Bryce Harper's already a world talented player. So he had an MVP season in the past. He had an MVP season now. That had nothing to do with Joe Girardi. That has everything to do with who Bryce Harper is. I'm talking about, I haven't seen any of the younger guys improved under Joe Girardi to the point where you could say, man, that Joe Girardi, he knows how to, get the best out of his players. I don't see that at all on this team. And that is a frustration. And that is where you have to say, okay, I don't care how big of a name Joe Girardi is, because let's face it, it's his name. Yeah. He was a hotshot coach coming up because he was a catcher for the Cubs. He obviously was a good player, not great, but he was a good player in his career. But he's just not showing any signs of growth in his role.
So Phillies played this afternoon. I think it's a 3:00 game. Zach Eflin's on the mound. Predictions for the game today?
Every time I predict that they're going to win, they lose. So I'm going to go the opposite. I'm going to try something different.
You're going to go with the reverse moosh on them today.
Yes, I think the Phillies lose 6-4.
All right, 6-4 loss. I mean, again, the over/under today, it's come down. It's only 11 runs. It's not 12 like yesterday. Again, if the over hits today, if it's over 11 combined runs, the Phillies win 9-5. If it's a combined under 11 runs, the Phillies lose, which means they lose something like 5-3 or 5-4. So it'll be a new lineup because Didi Gregorius will not be playing today. So we'll have another lineup today. We'll see what Joe Girardi trots out there. It's a 3:00 game. Honestly, I might be able to search Twitter. You might even be able to find the lineup pretty soon on there before the game's over, or the show's over. But yeah, I mean, I'm right there again. Over, we win. Under, we lose. I'm leaning towards the under because we just haven't seen consistent offense yet. So we'll see what happens. We fall further into the hole. I don't know, I'm trying to think of when the quickest manager firing in Phillies history was, or in baseball history. I do know, I remember the year they fired Nick Leyva and brought and promoted Jim Fregosi to be the coach. Was that 91, I think that was, or 92? 91. I think that was only about 13 or 14 games into the season. I think they were about 4-8, 4-9 at that point. So that's about as early as I remember. But that I was also like 10, 11 years old at that point. So I don't remember much before that.
I think
So
Ryan Sandberg was fairly early too.
it might have been.
Not that early.
Yeah. I'm going to have to do some research on that one too. So real quick, before we transition to Sixers talk and other topics, I don't want to spend a lot of time on it. But it's an interesting thing happened yesterday. And because we're playing the Rockies, it's even more like, out there right now for me. It's prevalent and all. Charlie Blackmon, Rockies outfielder, signed the first endorsement contract with a sports book for a baseball player. Now, in the new CBA, baseball players are now allowed to sign endorsement contracts with sports books. They're not allowed to promote betting on baseball, but they are allowed to promote the companies. And, with this whole Calvin Ridley getting in trouble for betting on football, betting on your sport is rule 101. You're taught from, right away, the first second you become a professional, you're not allowed to do it. It's probably page 1.2 on the handbook. But when we talked about that Calvin Ridley suspension, several people were disagreeing with me and saying that the league shouldn't have gotten involved with the sports books even as an advertising thing because it's a slippery slope. Now, in baseball, you got the Pete Rose situation, obviously the biggest sports athlete or personality ever to get caught gambling on their sport. And baseball's allowing this. Charlie Blackmon's the first one. Is it a slippery slope they're dealing with here, allowing baseball players, within the back of your mind, thinking of Pete Rose, allowing baseball players to endorse sports books?
I mean, it absolutely is a slippery slope. Like, I don't think you can look at it any other way. Like, I mean, I don't want to say it's like the pot calling the kettle black, but if you really look at it in detail, I understand that, things are changing. I understand that things evolve. I realize that sports betting has become, if not the biggest, one of the biggest.
Baseball stadiums are building sections of their stadiums that are sports books now.
And listen, I acknowledge all that. But as a fan and looking from an outside perspective, it's definitely, I mean, I think you're asking for trouble. I do. I mean, do you think, let's ask this question. Do you think Calvin Ridley's the only person that's bet on football?
Absolutely not. He's the only one that
got caught. Exactly.
He's the only one dumb enough to use his own phone, not have a burner phone to do it with.
Exactly. So do you think, I'll ask the same question. Do you think this hasn't already been happening in baseball? I mean, it's probably happening across all sports. The problem is now if you're making it where, and as you said, you made it, you pointed out that they're not telling them or allowing them to promote betting on the game. They're just promoting the betting. But how do you draw that line? And where and when someone gets caught, are they going to be able to say, well, listen, you guys are allowing bet? Like, I didn't mean it. We're, then there's going to be a lot of questions in gray areas and yada, yada, yada. Like,
I just look at it as there's so much money to be made with the sports books, the advertising dollars with the sports books, the Bet MGMs, the Bet 360s, the DraftKings sports books. There's no way the leagues are going to not want to get a piece of that betting dollar. That's why you see the commercials during the games. But if the leagues are going to take a portion of that money, the players are going to want it too. So they better have a really good firewall put in place to make sure it doesn't happen. We say, do we think it probably happens? It probably does. But I also think to an extent do I think there's other people like Calvin Ridley in all sports? Absolutely. But I think it's a very small percentage. I don't think you could say there's 300 football players and 250 baseball players that are using their sister's cousin's phone and a burner phone to play sports bets. I don't think it's like that. There might be 5 or 6 others that are doing it.
Yeah, but you probably said the same thing about steroid use 20 years ago or whatever, 30 years ago. And look what happened. Yeah. Everyone was using it. Like, you just didn't know it because nobody was talking about it.
Right. That's a very fair comparison. It really is. I just think that it's interesting that the first person, got signed. And I just think it was part of the CBA. The players were giving up. The owners had to give something. They allowed it. I'm surprised only one. This is the first time, in literally the 8 months since the 8 weeks since the CBA was signed that this is the first person to sign a deal, and it's with a smaller sports book, Maxim Bet. It's like a spin-off. It's a separate division of Maxim Magazine or whatever it's called now. So it's not one of the major sports books. It's one of there's sports betting is legal in 30 states plus Washington, D.C. So, I mean, sports betting is not going anywhere. Sports betting, just like legal marijuana, is the government, states, everyone's realizing the tax dollars that are at play there. These guys want to get a piece of the action. And I can't fault them for allowing it.
Like I said, I don't fault them. I guess I'm just...
Don't be surprised when they get caught breaking the rules.
Yeah,
is that a fair way to say it?
Oh, yeah. And you know, on the player side of it, like, I'd probably be looking at it like, wow, you know, this money, you know, we deserve this, and why not? Who's this? Bryce Stout.
Typical Phillies. Win today and give us hope, and then lose against the Mets. Yeah. Well, we got the Brewers first before the Mets, but yeah, exactly. Look, I think it's a slippery slope, obviously. We just hope that there's firewalls in place to prevent this from becoming a problem. But there's no way to stop progress. And progress is sports books. You know, the next thing, honestly, you know, I made a joke about it just now, but, you know, sports books, sports gambling and betting and marijuana. They're the two things that are going to take over this country that are going to bring in so many tax dollars. When will be the first athlete to promote a marijuana dispensary? Because you know it's coming. It's going to have to happen at some point. Are you going to say that they're not smoking weed?
And who's the mascot going to be? Who's the mascot going to be? Snoop?
I don't know. I'm just saying. You know, there's advertising dollars there. The leagues are getting involved with sports betting. Don't be surprised if we're having the same conversation next year about, you know, dispensaries.
It's definitely interesting topics of conversation. Like, I mean,
there's just got to be the proper firewalls.
It's crazy because I look back even 10 years ago, I would have never foreseen any of this. Like, it's one of those things that have just come I don't want to say out of nowhere, but basically like evolved quickly, very quickly.
It's because of the domino effect. One state approved legal betting, and then the next, and then instead of one at a time, then it's two at a time, then it's three at a time. Now, literally 30 out of the 50 states, it's legal in. And there will be a point probably in the next 2 or 3 years where it's 50 out of 50. And it's the same thing with marijuana. First Colorado, then 1 or 2 more states legalize it. Now, is today 420? Is today 420?
It is.
Yeah, well, go figure. Tomorrow, New Jersey is the latest state to legalize it recreationally, you know, marijuana. So it's going to be the same thing. It's going to just keep picking up pace just like sportsbook. And in 3 or 4 years, 30 states will have legal marijuana. It's just the way it is. People see those the government see the tax dollars that can be made. It's just interesting. We're going to monitor this situation. We're going to keep talking about it as time goes on. I just thought it was an interesting topic, you know, slightly off, you know, baseball specifically in the Phillies. But we'll see. We're going to pause for a quick 50 seconds here, pay a quick bill, and we'll be right back to preview the Sixers-Raptors Game 3 tonight. What's up, everybody? Phil Stiefel here. Trending in the AM. Look at this site right here, 99jersey.com. Proud supporter of all Trending in the AM shows. Make sure you check them out. Like I said, 99jersey.com. They have the best jerseys of all your favorite athletes from high school, college, movies, TV shows. You got the Kobe Bryant, Lower Merion, the Charlie Conway, Mighty Duck. Everybody always asks where I got my Sugar Shane Falco jersey back there from the Replacements movie. 99jersey.com. I mean, Magic Johnson, Michigan State, Lonzo Ball, Jalen Rose, you name it, Russell Westbrook, you name it, they've got it on this site. Make sure you check them out, 99jersey.com. Use promo code TRENDING at checkout. It gets you 15% off right away. 99jersey.com, promo code TRENDING. Yo, support the podcast that brings you the heat every single morning. And we're back right here on Trending in the AM. I am Phil Stiefel, your host, at Bearded Knowledge, with my main man, Jason Voorhees, at Mustang3651. All right, we're done with baseball. Next 10, 12 minutes, we are going to preview Game 3, Sixers-Raptors. Can the Sixers take a commanding 3-0 lead tonight? And, you know, they go in, they're a 2-point favorite tonight. I mean, the talk of the fouls and the free throws. It's nauseating at this point. But we are still playing a very good Toronto team. So, Jason, what do the Sixers have to do tonight to maintain the momentum that they've built so far? They like we've said before, were they going to be able to flip a switch once the playoffs started? They flipped that switch. What do they have to do to keep that momentum going tonight?
I mean, first of all, I think it's important that they keep their composure. Not that they haven't, but I think it's very important in this game because this is a game where you could kind of lose the momentum as you just talked about. Like game 3 to me is always a game where you look at it as I'm trying to think of the word. In any playoff series, like, you know, you can look at certain games as like games that play. Correct. I couldn't think of the right word.
If it's a 1-1 series, you take the 2-1 lead. If it's 2-0, you take the commanding 3-0 lead. If you're down 0-2, it's the game that starts pulling the momentum back to your side. It's a pivotal game in every series. It's the golf term. You know, game 3 is like round 3 of a 4-round tournament. It's called moving day. You know, you just try to get to round 3, and then round 3 is when you make the aggressive movement that either drops you out of contention or puts you up at the top of the leaderboard. So it's kind of like moving day in golf. It's a pivotal game that sets the tone for the rest of the series.
Yeah, and that's – I mean, you just said it perfectly. You nailed it. You nailed my point.
Well, your point of keeping composure, I think, is actually a really, really good point. Because it's really easy for this team, the way the Raptors are body checking and body slamming and fouling and just basically railroading the Sixers, it's easy to get frustrated. And you see Joel's a fiery guy. The last thing we need is Joel Embiid getting into a fight.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm at with it. I see what's going on as far as the head games that Nick Nurse is trying to play here. And obviously – they don't have an answer for Joel. The only answer is what he's doing. It's basically trying to play bully ball, but they can't bully Embiid because he's such a bully himself. Like he's the man. You know what I'm saying? So I think I'd like to say that the Sixers are going to come out and win the game. I think I would like to continue to see Tyrese Maxey, you know, evolve here because it is special watching this kid play. I mean, I'm just gloating every day that I watch him. Like, and I just love
bought a Maxey jersey yet.
I am. That's going to be my first. I mean, I have obviously my Allen Iverson jersey, but I was waiting to buy a jersey. Now, obviously, everyone has Embiid, like, and rightfully so. He's the best. He really is. But I am going to buy a Tyrese Maxey jersey because I just love the kid's passion and his energy that he brings to this team. Like, talk about, you know, how a lot of people are down on Harden and how a lot of them, you know, are saying, oh, look how slow he is. And he's just lollygagging around. And we can get more into that. But it's like the opposite, like watching Tyrese Maxey. It's like just this, like, it's like a pit bull, like coming at you and then just doesn't stop. And even when he has a down game where, you know, a game where you're like, okay, well, maybe he's kind of going backwards. He just kind of pops right back up and you saw it last game. Like in the first half, he was shut out. I remember I had to work, so I didn't see it, but I was like looking at my phone and I was like, man, Maxey has no points, you know? And then all of a sudden he had 21 points. So the kid is just not frazzled. He's always able to, you know, elevate himself. And I think it's just fun. He's having fun out there playing with Joel and Harden. And I mentioned it yesterday, or I guess it was the previous show. James Harden, to me, it's not what he's doing on the stat sheet that's important to me. It's the fact of what he's done for this team as far as his leadership. And you don't have to look anywhere else other than Tyrese Maxey to see the influence that Harden has had on this team, and especially on Tyrese.
Yeah, I mean, there was a point in the last game, I forget the exact moment of the game, but it was after a hard foul, and I don't want to say that there was a fight, but there was like kind of, you know, players getting nose to nose, and James Harden literally pulled all 4 other guys that were on the floor. He pulled and I forget which one. One didn't come. He's like, no. He pointed to him and he grabbed him and pulled him into the team huddle. It's like, yo, and you could see him going like this, reading his lips, yo, let's go. Keep your composure, doing what a leader does. So, you say people want to say what James Harden isn't anymore, but he still had a really good game one. He didn't have the greatest game too. But again, the leadership on the court, like you said, is crucial. The mentoring, it's crucial. Now, I still firmly believe, well, first I said he was going to have an old school James Harden breakout game at some point. Now I firmly believe he has to, because I think we've gotten 2 great games from Tobias. Tobias' track record he's not going to have, 7 straight great playoff games. He's going to have an off night. And Nick Nurse is still, Nick Nurse, I said I've hyped him up as a great coach, better than Doc Rivers, but he's been pretty poor so far this playoff series as a head coach. His entire game plan is foul, 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 and then foul some hard. He's going to have a better game plan tonight. And I guarantee, and you start to see it in the last 5-10 minutes of the fourth quarter when they start to make a little run, the Raptors, all of a sudden, they were starting to slide double teams over to Tyrese Maxey. And if he has a full game where he is double teaming Tyrese Maxey tonight, that means James Harden is going to have to step up. James Harden's going to have to knock down some shots. He's going to have to get to the rim harder and faster. I think he's capable of it. You're not going to be able to, and if he does do that, then all of a sudden teams are like, well, maybe we can't double team Tyrese Maxey. We're just going to have to one-on-one every single guy on this team. So I think it's going to be imperative for James Harden to have a big game tonight.
It's a great call out. I actually agree with you. I think if he does come out and have a big game, like you said, I think it sets this team up for the rest of the playoffs, because I think the mentality around the league, like you said, I think, and it's probably not just Nick Nurse, because let's face it, every coach somewhat looks into the future, even though they might not admit it. So these other teams that we may be facing could be saying in their own mind, wow, that Tyrese Maxey, he's been phenomenal. Like, we need to start really paying more attention to him. Like, I'm sure that's going around the league as far as coaches wise.
The league knows what's going on.
Doing that, like you said, if Harden doesn't come out and have a big game, then they're going to be more apt to say, you know what, we're not worried about Harden. But if Harden does come out and have, like, just say he drops 29 and has 10 rebounds and, has a big game, then all of a sudden, like you said, then you're back to like, okay, well, we really don't have, the capability of just doubling Tyrese, because then Harden's going to eat us apart. But if we double team Harden, then Maxey's going to eat us apart. And then if we double team both, and beat, like, that's where it comes into the fact of, like you said, having a consistent balance around this team and not just being all Embiid.
Right.
But I do believe, like you said, I think a lot of Maxey's success is not only because of the mentorship, but I do think that that Harden is taking a lot of the attention, even though he's not putting up the numbers.
Absolutely.
They're showing attention. And now see, like I said, I don't watch basketball enough to be able to know all the nuances, and you probably see it more than I do. But I'm sure that, when there's like different defenses set up, that their game plan is focused on, obviously, well, we see it right now, and you called it, like, they're foul, foul, foul. But I'm sure in the back of their mind, they're saying, let's keep, a focus on Harden because of his track record. I mean, even though Harden might not be the same guy that he was 3 years ago, he's still capable of it. And like you said, we just need to see it. It would just be nice for us as fans to see that kind of a game from James Harden and be able to say, wow, breath of fresh air, we know we got this. You know what I'm saying? And I think absolutely. A lot of Sixers fans, and unfortunately, I think it's because it happens and we get let down so often. That's the kind of the mentality we develop. And you know what? People make fun of us, but unfortunately, that's just natural. Like, when you're let down constantly, you're going to start having doubts. Yeah. But you got to look at the bigger picture. And I think that this team is just so much better than teams of the past that have failed. You looked at last year's playoffs when Ben Simmons, like, totally shit the bed in that first series. Like, And then and you don't you all you have to do is look at that one play that's basically an iconic play on our end because he did nothing. Like, remember, he just basically like didn't pass, and like it was just like everyone was just like we were all looking at each other like, what is this guy doing? Mm-hmm. We don't have that anymore. We don't have that distraction anymore. This team is better prepared to make a long playoff run, and there's one major reason why, and it's Joel Embiid. And I know, like, you know, we wanted him to win the MVP, and that's important. But to me, the ultimate thing that we want is this championship. And I think Joel is definitely capable of carrying the team on his back. He's proven it when we didn't have Harden. So having Harden only helps because, like I said, he takes away the double teams and he takes that pressure off of Embiid that Embiid has to be perfect. When Embiid is playing his best, it's when you see that he's having fun. And he's definitely, this year over any other year that I've seen in the past, having a good time on the court. And that means a lot.
And tonight is obviously the first game without Matisse since he's not allowed up there. Danny Green had a really good game, played a lot of minutes. The question is, will Doc Rivers just stick to his other three bench guys, George Niang, Shake Milton, and Paul Reed? Will he bring in Korkmaz for a few minutes? I hope not. I put it out there on Twitter. Scotty agreed. He says that Shake Milton will pick up a lot of the minutes. Shake Milton has quietly he's played 14 minutes both games, 10 points in game 1, 3 last game, has played really well. He's finally healthy. George Niang only played 9 minutes in the last game. I think you're going to see, hopefully, Doc Rivers do the smart thing, not expand the bench, just keep it to the three bench guys. You're going to see Matisse's 11 minutes, 5 of them go to Shake, 5 of them go to George Niang. You know, I think that's where you go. Hopefully that's the way they do it. And I don't think you really lose anything at this point of the season without having Matisse there. Maybe a late second crunch time when you need a great defender. Maybe you missed that. But that's it. Real quick. Prediction. They're 2-point favorite. They were 1.5-point favorites. Now they're 2-point favorites. The Sixers. Do the Sixers win tonight? Take pivotal game 3 and set themselves up to have a quick first round against the Raptors.
Yeah, I'm going.
You're struggling to say yes, aren't you?
Because it's a pivotal game, and I know that Toronto is going to come out fired up. Like, obviously, I don't think Nick Nurse is a bad coach. I know he's maybe had questionable game plan, but he's still a great coach. I think he'll have his team prepared. So I think it's going to be a tough battle, but I do think the Sixers are going to come out with a W. And I'm going to call 109-107. They're going to win it by close.
7. That's right. It's 216.5 is the over/under.
They're going to win a close one.
You're literally saying a half a point under on the over/under there. I like it. 109, 107. Yeah, I say the Sixers win. Again, I don't think it's going to be that. You know, I said it last game. You guys were all predicting close games. I said they were going to win by at least 10. They did. I'm going to say the Sixers win by 10. They're the better team. They're clicking perfectly. I think you're going to see, like you saw last game, the Raptors jumped out to an 8-0 early lead. They made a little run in the fourth quarter instead of the third quarter to tighten the gap a little bit. But I see another 10-plus point victory for the Sixers tonight. I'm going to go with the same exact prediction. It was wrong. I said 120-110 last game. I had the point spread about right, but not the actual score. I'm going 120-110 Philly. They dominate. Maybe they lose game 4. Give them the gentleman's sweep kind of. I hate that term. It's such a stupid term, the gentleman's sweep. But I got Sixers winning 120-110. Mark it down. Lock it up. Don't follow my bets. I have not hit a Sixers parlay yet this playoff. I'm 0 for 2. I picked Danny Green to go off in game 1. He goes off in game 2. I picked James Harden to go off in game 2. He went off in game 1. I can't get my parlays right. So don't follow me for that. All right. Real quick. We went long on the Phillies and the baseball gambling topic there. But I did put out my top 10 TV shows of all time on Twitter last night. It was a great thread that was going around. And obviously, as soon as I put it out, I knew I was going to do this. I forgot 2 or 3, so I've got like 5 honorable mentions now. Let's see if I can share my screen here and put this up here for you. You know, what my favorite shows of all time. Here we go. All right, is that up on the screen there?
It is.
All right, there we go. So these are my favorite. I want your opinion on my favorite shows. We'll do your shows another day. But if you had to rank this, so I got The Americans. If you haven't watched it, it's the greatest show that nobody watched. It was on FX. It's about Russian spies living in America during the 80s. Fantastic show, fantastic writing, fantastic acting. Got a little bit of press finally towards the end of the show. Won some Emmys and stuff like that. If you have not watched it, it's a slow build show, but it is literally every season has a payoff at the end, and the ultimate payoff at the final episode of the show was amazing. The Wire, obviously everybody knows The Wire. The Wire is a great show. Sopranos, Mad Men would be higher on my list if that last season wasn't so bad. Sons of Anarchy, I'm a huge Sons of Anarchy fan. Seinfeld, I think its importance as a comedy is what ranks it. There's some seasons that were funny, some that weren't, but it was such an important comedy. The A-Team and MacGyver are more there. They weren't great shows. Let's be honest. They're there because they mean something to my childhood, and they're very important to me. Criminal Minds, 9. The Ozarks, 10. Mindhunters is like honorable mentions 11. If you haven't watched it, there's only 2 seasons of it on Netflix. It's kind of like Criminal Minds. It's basically a show about the people that created the BAU, which is the division of the FBI that Criminal Minds is based around. It's about the guys that created that division, the FBI, and it got cut because of money issues on Netflix. But they're actually talking after all these years of bringing it back for a season 3, and they've got the actors confirmed to be interested if they can get the right script together. Then obviously I forgot about Ray Donovan. I forgot about Homeland. Forgot about House of Cards. So we could put them in that 12, 13, 14 range. But Jason, am I over-ranking or under-ranking any of these shows on my list?
Well, here's the deal for me. If I were, and I'm not going to give my full list because I did that with you, and like you said, we could do that another time. But what I will say is, obviously, to me, there's only one show that I can ever put in the number 1 spot, and that's Sopranos.
Okay.
Because that's my all-time favorite show, and I think it is an all-time favorite. Now, here's where I will say, I've never saw The Americans, so I can't say whether it's better or not because I've never watched it myself.
So I'm
now going to watch it on your recommendation.
You should, and you have to be patient with it because there are slow episodes, but those slow episodes are planting seeds and developing characters and stuff like that. Now, The Sopranos, The Wire, The Americans, in my mind, I love The Americans. I think The Americans, that 80s Cold War era, I'm a big history buff. The Americans is that Cold War era, you don't see enough documentaries on it. You don't see enough, movies or TV shows about it. And it's something that more people need to learn more about it, how scared America was in that time frame, in the Cold War. But you could literally take 1, 2, 3 on my list, The Americans, The Wire, Sopranos, rearrange them in any order, and I'd be okay with it because I think they are the 3 greatest shows of all time, hands down. But you can rearrange them. You can put Sopranos 1, sure.
Now there is one glaring show that is missing. Now,
I know.
You didn't see that show, so I can understand why you wouldn't have it if you didn't see it.
Exactly.
But to me, there's no way that you can have a top 10 list and not include Breaking Bad. Because Breaking Bad to me,
never seen Breaking Bad.
Well, I'm telling you, you need to sit. I know that you don't have a lot of time. That's a show that you have to absolutely spend the time and watch. Because I'm going to be honest with you. I had a buddy that kept telling me, Jason, I cannot believe you haven't seen Breaking Bad, and kept saying it. So then when I was out with COVID one week, I was out of work. So I was like, all of a sudden Netflix became my best friend. I binged watched the entire Breaking Bad in a week. And let me tell you, it is absolutely I have it close to The Sopranos. Like, to me, Sopranos will always be the best because I love mob. I happen to love mob like shows, and
right there too.
I'm a big Goodfellas guy, and I love Godfather, obviously. That's the OG. But Breaking Bad, not only is it an awesome story with the whole, like, the guy has cancer, and it's basically like, he starts a meth lab. Like,
Spoiler alert.
Well, I mean, everyone knows that. You could look on, internet for that. But my point is, it's great storytelling, but it's also great acting, like phenomenal acting. Like, honestly, you'll love it. I think you might come to me and say, Jason, you're right. Breaking Bad, #1.
No. The Americans tough to. I mean, you have to put in the time with the Americans. Okay,
I got
it's
it.
a slow build, but there's one scene in the final episode. The whole final episode was perfect. When you have a show based about Russian spies in America during the Cold War, the Cold War ends. The Berlin Wall falls. So there is an end to the show. Season 1, episode 1, that there is an end to the show. They can't go on forever. Okay? The Cold War, I mean, someone tweeted at me last night, the Cold War's still going on. I'm like, oh, my God. Here we go with political stuff here. There's an end. And still, when you get to that last episode, it was one of the most perfect last episodes I've ever seen of any show. But there's one scene in that episode that has two of the main characters going at it in a verbal confrontation, not a physical confrontation. And literally, that one scene was the ultimate payoff for being dedicated to a show for 5 seasons. I mean, literally one scene. It should have gotten the Emmy for the greatest scene of all time. I mean, it was just so perfectly written, so perfectly acted. And that one scene, and there's multiple scenes like that throughout the show's history. But that scene, some people say The Sopranos, the final scene, it was the ultimate ending and payoff. And it was. I love the way the Sopranos final scene played out. This scene I'm talking about is exactly like that, but even more intense. So the Americans will always be #1. I actually left a Phillies game in the 6th inning so I could get home in time to not miss an episode because I couldn't DVR shows. I have to see it live. When I'm passionate about a show, I have to be seeing it right when it airs for the first time. I left the Phillies game in the 6th inning to get home in time to see an Americans episode.
Oh, dude, that's all I need to hear. Obviously, you love this show. Now, here's the trade-off. I'm going to go check out The Americans, and I want you to check out Breaking Bad, and I want to come back with a review a month from now, let's say. Let's give it a month.
No way I'm getting through Breaking Bad in a month. I got no time for that. But at some point in the next 50 years, I will watch Breaking Bad. I guarantee it. In the next 50 years, I'll get it done. All right, we're going to wrap it up for today there. This is Trending in the AM right here on DSM Media. I'm trying to hold a sneeze in here, so I'm going to wrap this up fast. Everybody have a great day today. Phillies win. Sixers win. Let's have a clean sweep so when I come back on here tomorrow morning, I have 2 positive things to talk about. Y'all have a great day from my main man, Jason Voorhees. I am Phil Stifle. Yo, let's get some W's today, baby.
Sixers in 4.